If this report about Damian Lillard and the Raptors is actually true, it might be time to fire Masai Ujiri. Let's get into it. Welcome everybody, this is Amateur Hour Sports, where it is all Toronto Raptors all the time in videos, streams, and shorts. If you like what you see from today's video, make sure you are subscribed to the channel to keep up to date with all that great content, and drop a like if you find yourself enjoying along the way. But we are less than 24 hours at the time of recording, at least, after the Damian Lillard trade saga unfolded and came to its result of the player ending up with the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, we had our initial reaction to that trade yesterday, Damian Lillard ending up with the Bucks, and, Shams kind of hinting maybe the Raptors were heavily involved. The Raptors, of course, were a major player in the Damian Lillard trade saga. They're really pushing to make a trade, but just how serious was Masai Ujiri in trying to make this? Because the outside looking in, the Raptors had the capabilities of making this trade happen. Now, obviously, Damian Lillard had his say in where he wanted to go. Portland kind of wanted to do right in some capacity by Damian sending him to a contender. And obviously, when it comes to comparing Milwaukee to the Raptors, yeah, one of those teams is Giannis. It's no-brainer which one makes you a better team. It's the Milwaukee Bucks that is now a certified, beyond belief contender in the NBA as a result of making this trade. But the Raptors had the capabilities, really, of having the best offer here, and it's an offer that made sense for the team. They had to trade one of OG Anunoby, Pascal, Siakam, or Scotty Barnes to have any sliver of hope of making this trade happen. I've said many times, you're not trading Scotty Barnes. You got to bank on that upside. You're acquiring Dame to play with a co-star like Pascal Siakam. He's off the table, and OG Anunoby is a player that makes a ton of sense to move in the deal because OG is on an expiring contract. He's extension eligible for about $29.7 million a year. I am certain he's going to get more than that amount in free agency next summer, so he's going to test free agency. Yes, the Raptors have an opportunity to re-sign him as a free agent, but it might be a similar situation to the Fred VanVleet saga that we saw in July of this year where, yeah, we're trying to re-sign him, but we could get priced out of it as there are going to be so many teams lining up, queuing up to give OG Anunoby a contract, and big contracts at that, because they believe he is the final piece to their championship puzzle. There is a big possibility, I would say a greater than 50% probability, that OG Anunoby walks for completely nothing in this summer. And beyond just the OG Anunoby contract situation, there is the Pascal Siakam impending free agency, Gary Trent Jr.'s impending free agency, and also Scotty Barnes is extension eligible at the end of the season. And not that that money kicks in right away, but he's extension eligible, and the player is certainly going to be looking for a max extension, a rookie max extension, and the Raptors will probably be wanting to give that to him. But with all these financial constraints, with all these contract constraints, the Raptors had a big opportunity here to really alleviate the stress of OG leaving for nothing and Siakam leaving for nothing by making a trade happen here. And there was no team that was going to match the Raptors' offer of OG Anunoby plus 2 first-round picks and whatever filler, whether that's Gary Trent Jr., whether that's pieces to get up to the salary, whatever it was going to be. OG Anunoby and 2 picks was an unmatched trade that no other team was going to follow up with. So when the Bucks ended up with Damian Lillard, it kind of surprised me that it was Jrue Holiday getting sent the other way. Not that if the Bucks got him, it had to be Jrue if the Bucks were going to get the player, but it was peculiar how Dame ended up in Milwaukee if the Raptors were such players in this, because I mean, even with the contract situation, like Jrue's not on a great contract situation either for Portland, and they want to flip him. Easily, OG was the more preferable asset. So in my eyes, and I said this yesterday, right after the trade, that, okay, there might have been something from Dame himself saying he wanted to go to Milwaukee. He understands it's not quite the same offer the Raptors are offering, but he wants to go to Milwaukee over the Raptors. The Portland Trailblazers trying to do right by Dame, as I said, send him over there. But then as we got further and further after the trade, we had to figure out exactly how the Raptors didn't end up with a player when they could have had the best offer on the table. And the report that we got just infuriated me. The Raptors were major players in this trade indeed, but reports coming from the Toronto Sun indicate that Toronto was just not willing to put OG Anunoby in a trade. Quote, the Raptors were not willing to dangle OG Anunoby in this trade. So the Raptors were trying to acquire Damian Lillard while not using Scotty Barnes, who was deemed untouchable, not using Siakam because we know that trade saga is over, and not trading OG Anunoby. Like, how did they expect to make this trade happen? Maybe it's Masai Ujiri kind of reaching in, seeing if he can cut a deal here, cut a really good trade, just dipping his toes in the water just to see what's what. But once again, like maybe he wasn't fully invested in making this trade again, but this was such a good opportunity for the Raptors to alleviate the constraints when it comes to the OG Anunoby contract and the Pascal Siakam contract. Because if you trade OG Anunoby for Damian Lillard, you have a much higher level of security with the contract when Damian Lillard comes through the door than with OG Anunoby, who again, I believe is going to leave the Raptors for free in just under 1 year's time. By acquiring Damian Lillard as well, you have a much safer possibility of extending Siakam because now you have a competitive team. Now you have a winning situation, and that's definitely going to cater to what Siakam wants. I think Siakam is likely going to stay with the team regardless. I think it's more like not that Siakam signs an extension with the team. However, you're much safer by presenting him a real contending team, a real championship team that he can be a key figure in. So you alleviate a lot of the stress with Siakam, and you alleviate all of the stress with OG Anunoby. If OG Anunoby's on a long-term deal, if OG Anunoby has security with the Raptors, I don't have to worry about him leaving, I probably don't want to dangle him in this trade. But knowing the contract situation that is in place, this could legitimately turn into the biggest mistake the franchise has ever done. Easily the biggest mistake in Masai Ujiri's tenure with the Raptors. And, my faith, as I've said earlier on in the summer, is slowly fading here. I have not completely lost faith in this front office. Definitely not. But if OG Anunoby walks for free in the summer of 2024, when we had the opportunity to acquire Damian Lillard for him and vault this team into contenders in the Eastern Conference, that is absolutely grounds to fire your front office. That is absolutely grounds to fire Masai Ujiri. There has been a tragic mishandling of assets in the post-championship era. Naturally, after a championship, you're going to lose assets. You invested a lot of picks. You invested a lot of finances into making that championship team. That's understandable, but too many times have we seen players walk away for free already from the Raptors without getting any sort of value. Fred VanVleet was the latest one, like I said, in early July when he left to join the Houston Rockets. Was that July 1st, June 20th? Whatever it was. Too many players have walked out the door for either nothing or not enough. Trading Kyle Lowry to the Miami Heat in a sign-in trade for Goran Dragic and Precious Achiuwa, which eventually handcuffed you into losing a first-round pick to acquire Thaddeus Young. When you had the opportunity at the trade deadline in Kyle Lowry's last season in Toronto to move him to Philly for a very good package that may or may not have included Tyrese Maxey. The mishandling of assets is going too far here, and this would push it over the top. OG was being offered in trades. Teams are offering for OG in trades in February at the trade deadline 3 first-round picks. Now, I don't think it was wrong for the Raptors to want 3 picks plus a player, plus like a solid player, which teams were unwilling to do. And all of the noise at the time was that whatever you can get in February, you can get better in June. You can get better in July. Well, we're here now, and there was a big opportunity to get better than that. And given the situation we've had with OG where the player might be unsettled, the player may want a bigger role, and other teams around the league just knowing the importance of OG, the valuation on OG, he can sign, like I said, an extension worth $29.7 million a year. He's getting more than that in free agency. He's getting at least 30, and I would wager that we're going to get into a bidding war here with a lot of teams, and OG is going to be making in the range of $35 million a year when it's all said and done when he signs his contract next summer. Like, Cam Johnson is getting like $27 million a year. Jeremy Grant is getting a massive contract. Like, these are like somewhat comparable players here. Mostly Cam Johnson. OG is definitely going to be getting above 30, and like I said, I would wager he's going to be in the $35 million a year range. Can the Raptors afford that and also worry about Siakam and also worry about Gary Trent Jr. and also worry about Scotty Barnes' extension? Like, maybe they can do that. Does that cost you elsewhere? And what if OG walks for free? And what if we enter this very realistic doomsday scenario where OG walks for free and Siakam decides he wants to go to a new team? Perhaps Gary Trent decides. I think Trent's likely to extend. I've said that as well, and I think Siakam's likely to extend. But there is a very realistic doomsday scenario in Toronto where your all-NBA player Pascal Siakam leaves for free in 1 year. Your all-defense player in OG Anunoby leaves for free in 1 year. And where would that leave the Toronto Raptors? Sure, in a position where they're able to rebuild with all of their draft assets available to themselves. But my goodness, the setback that would give this franchise when they had a plethora of opportunities to correct this. The OG trade made so much sense for the Raptors. It made so much sense. in an uncertain Eastern Conference before Milwaukee made that trade and vaulted themselves into this insane status in the Eastern Conference. It was an open Eastern Conference. The Raptors would have had a starting five of Damian Lillard, possibly Gary Trent Jr., but maybe Schroeder or Dick if it's Gary Trent that goes in the trade with OG. So Dame, let's say Trent, Barnes, Siakam, Pirtle, that's a contender. That's a contender in a strong conference, let alone a weak Eastern Conference. Like, Dame got to a Western Conference Finals with himself, McCollum, Harkless, Aminu, and Cantor. What are we doing here? The Raptors, the front office, had a chance amidst all the mistakes, all the mishandling of assets. They had the prime opportunity to get out of jail, get out of this contract and financial mess. Get rid of the OG contract because you're scared he's going to leave for free. I'm so scared he's going to leave for free. You don't have to worry about that. You have Dame on a secure deal. Your likelihood of extending Siakam drastically increases. Your likelihood of extending Gary Trent Jr. as a result drastically increases if he is still here after that trade is made. You become a contender. You give the fan base a clear direction of what this team wants to be, because right now the direction is still nothing. Is it a winning team? It's not going to be a winning team. Is it a team that goes for a draft pick? Well, we don't have our first round pick to fall back on. Once again, we could say the Raptors are even all in on nothing. The front office had a massive chance to get out of jail, as I said. And if there is no plan, no clear-cut plan in place to extend OG Anunoby or re-sign him on a new contract, and he walks away for free, that is more than enough grounds to find a new front office and fire Masai Ujiri. It is so frustrating, the indecision that we see from the front office, and I am pretty damn close to hitting my boiling point. I'm lucky it's been an overnight. I can sleep on it and communicate it like this, because it was fiery when I saw that report about OG. Something needs to change for the Raptors, and if nothing does, then the first thing that goes is Masai Ujiri and the front office. What do you make of this whole situation? Do you agree or disagree? Let me know your thoughts and opinions down below. Drop a like if you enjoyed, subscribe for more Raptors content, and I'll see you again next time for another video.